Hi, I'm Galit Kaunitz. I'm the oboe professor at Colorado State, and I'm here to help you prepare for your all-state auditions this year. These etudes are, I think, really great for preparing and practicing and actually maintaining a lot of fun in the practice sessions. We'll start with the fast etude, which is in a beautiful key for us in G minor. And the first thing we want to do is make sure that we keep a staccato articulation style all the way through as is indicated at the beginning of the etude and then nowhere else. So make sure you remember, even though there are not the little dots indicating staccato, that it does still remain staccato. There are some really challenging measures in here where there's a lot of interval jumping, especially measures like 5 through 8. And the way that I would recommend you practice measures like this is so what I've done there is I've isolated the important skeletal notes of the etude, and I'm sort of getting my ear in line with what it's supposed to sound like without all of the other notes muddying the waters. What you can then do after you've got a handle on that is start adding more notes. So something like this. That allows you to understand the structure of really jumpy measures like this without having to slow down considerably, giving your brain a lot of time to think about it. Another thing that you can do is change which notes are grouped together. So for example, you could, instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you could do something like this. And so on. So we want to make sure that we're understanding everything we can about how these intervals work together within the 6/8 structure. 6/8 is also really important here. We want to make sure that we are not playing every single eighth note with the same amount of weight. In order for it to feel and sound like a lilting, easy 6/8, we want to give a slight emphasis or weight to eighth notes 1 and 4. So it's not going to sound like, but it will sound more like, to give it a little bit more motion and a little bit more life. Another thing that you can do is change the articulations of a lot of these long slurred runs of 16th notes in order to make your brain really have to think about what's coming next. And this will help you learn the fingers a little bit better. So in a measure like measure 11, where you have 2 big groups of slurs, you can change it to all sorts of articulation styles. Or anything you want. And then that will force your brain to really think about it a little bit differently. You can also do different rhythms and things like that. That will help you in your practice session not be bored and reinvigorate the way that you think about these etudes, because we know that you're going to be practicing them for a long time. Another thing that you can do in this fast etude is try to sing it, and sing it with the right notes in the right intervals. If you have a keyboard or a keyboard app on your phone, that could be really helpful here, or you could just check yourself with notes on the oboe to make sure that you're really understanding what the notes are supposed to be before they come out of the oboe, because as we know, music happens in your brain before it happens in the instrument. The slow etude is another one that's actually really beautiful and fun to prepare. And it has some interesting challenges in here that I think you'll have fun with. The first thing is that we want to make sure we're maintaining our tempo in these long-ish half notes. And the way to do that is to subdivide sixteenths. And the reason I say sixteenths instead of eighths is because we want to make sure that we're keeping the flow moving. And one of the best ways to do that is to think about your sixteenths. 1E and a 2E and a T da da. And that way you don't get lost in the wishy-washy slowness of a half note. Another thing that's interesting about this etude is the turns or the sideways S symbols that you see in here. There are two different kinds, as you can see from the footnotes. The first one is where you have a 16th note triplet that takes place in the last eighth note of the half note. Okay, so that's the first one that you see on the page. The second one is in the next bar, so we're looking at bars 5 and 6. Bar 5 is the first kind, bar 6 is the second kind. The second kind is, instead of a group of 16th note triplets, we have a group of 4 32nd notes. The main difference between the two is in the first kind, the note before and after the turn symbol are the same note. In the second measure, in measure 6, the notes before and after the turn symbol are the same. In fact, they're rising. So every time you see this symbol and you see the second note above the first note, it's going to be a set of 4 32nd notes. And they don't write this out exactly, but there is an instance in measure 25 where instead of the turn symbol, they actually just write out the turn rhythm. So you can see it's in measure 25, it's an F followed by a set of 16th note triplet followed by an F. So when you see the unspecified turn symbol in measure 14, you can see that we go from an F to a G, which means that they're asking you to do the set of 4 rather than the set of 3. So those are going to be really important. Another thing that's going to be really important in this etude, because it is on the slower side, is going to be managing your air and managing your breathing. A way to do that is whenever we do have rests, we can take full advantage of the rest and do a full exhale, inhale, or we can split our breaths, exhale, and then inhale in the next one. That takes a little bit of practice, but it's saved me so many times. So that's something I encourage you to try, especially in measures like 8, 9, and 10. Another way that you can add little breaths in here where they maybe aren't indicated is by breathing after a longer note, like breathing after a half note or breathing after a dotted quarter note. And the way to do that gracefully is to make sure that you end the note you're going to breathe before beautifully with a nice taper, and make sure you're not late coming in after the breath. If you can do that, you can basically breathe anywhere. you so much for watching this video. I hope you found that helpful. I'm here to answer any questions you might have in your preparation process for the audition. I think it's really great if you are auditioning for All-State. Preparing for anything like this always makes us better. And I look forward to hearing from you and wish you the best of luck.